Welcome back to Jorola's Garage. I am afraid I might have some bad news. I may have killed the Boxster. Yeah, I'm not happy about it. I was driving it up to Atlanta. The water pump failed. I was lucky enough to be able to get the car to Titan Motorpsorts in Orlando. Thanks a lot for your help, Wes. Let me a lift. I got the car on the lift. I was able to get Wes was actually able to get the part from WorldPack, the pump. I installed it and I was on my way. And after that happened, the car kept getting hot, which I expected. It needs to burp, so I get out, I'd open the cap, let the air out, close the cap, and continue on. I don't know what happened, but it just continued on like that. It never actually quite burped. It never changed. So I was driving back and forth. Do I go to Atlanta? Do I go back to Miami? Back and forth. And finally, I decided to come back. And it got to a point where the car wouldn't cool down anymore, and it kept telling me low oil pressure. And I know that happens when the car gets hot and the oil gets really thin. The sensor doesn't pick up the pressure. And I basically parked the car overnight at a gas station. I took an Uber home, the 100 miles or whatever it was. And here we are. I got my truck, my trailer. I went and picked it up the following day, and now the car is here. So I'm going to look into it and see what could have happened. The idea is to get the car up in the air, drain the oil, drain the coolant, whatever's left of it. Just kind of give it a good look over. I got to check the air oil separator to see if that got messed up, because it was starting to blow a little bit of smoke, and that could be either catastrophic or it could be an AOS. So I just need to look into it. I need to look into the water pump that I put in there to make sure, just to make sure. I got to take a look at the thermostat. But first things first, I got to see if this engine is fried or not. I've given it some thought. If this engine is fried, I will fix this car. I don't know why I have an emotional attachment to this car. So I will fix it. I'll probably buy another one, swap engines or something. I don't know. But this car will get fixed and I will continue to drive it. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to get the car up in the air and see where it goes. One thing I forgot to mention. I was driving around with a bunch of jugs. I don't know, I had like 7 of them of water. 3 of coolant, which I put at first, and then I had a bunch of water, and I kept dumping more and more. Every time I'd open up to burp it, I'd put more, and it just seemed like it would never end. Aside from that, the trunk area was always moist. Every time I'd open it, there'd be condensation all over the bottom side of this. Everything felt wet, so I couldn't understand where. So I knew I either cracked the head and or something, because the coolant has to go somewhere. Now the oil is clean. It smells a little burnt, but it's not mixed. It's not milkshake. Neither is the coolant. So I'm thinking, well, it's got to be going somewhere. And then I realized on one of my roadside turnpike stops that the cap was hissing, like it was letting pressure escape. So that could have been where all my coolant was going. It was just evaporating through the cap, and we'll see. So the final moment that I had with the car was I tightened the crap out of that cap to where I didn't hear any hissing, and I'm going down the road and I hear tack, and all of a sudden the gauge just jumps up, at which time before this the gauge was pretty steady. It was about halfway. It would go up or down a little bit, but it was pretty steady, so I didn't really worry about overheating. I didn't think the car was overheating. So at some point I heard that tack, and all of a sudden the needle just went zoom, and it just pinned. I don't know if maybe when I torqued the cap, it finally sent the pressure the other way. There was a big air bubble or something, and that's when everything started going downhill. That's when the car started to smoke. It was only hot for like 2 seconds. As soon as the needle went up, I turned the car off close to the side, but I think it may have been too late. I know better than to let the car run like that, so I didn't. But I don't know. These are all variables that are going on in my head. What could have happened? All I know is the end result is the car still runs though. It runs fine. I can drive it, but I can't. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. But the car cranks. I mean, it sounds normal. So I'm hoping that maybe it's not dead. But I have a feeling that motor is toast. So anyway, that's it. Up in the air. Let's get this thing going and see what happens. At first glance, everything looks normal here. Little bit of seep, a little bit of moisture on the filter, but other than that, I don't see anything that would be a cause for concern. I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil and take out the filter. Let's see what happens. The oil is coming out. It doesn't look terrible. I mean, it's not, I mean, the oil wasn't that dirty anyway. It probably has maybe 1,000 miles at most on it. But it sure does smell a little funky. I don't know. I'm gonna check the filter now. I'll let this finish draining and go from there. The filter looks clean. There's no metal in there at all. That's a good sign. And there's no milkshake, which is another good sign. Now, I don't want to count my good signs before they hatch, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But next I gotta take the coolant out. But this is definitely no water. Yes, it smells funky, but there's no water. You can see the oil looks fine. It really does. Feels okay. Kind of weird. All right, I'll let it finish draining. Let it do what it do. Oh, the entertainment. A little follow-up to the oil. Sorry, that bunch of noise. I got a train going by. I don't know if you can see that, too much glare. But anyway, the oil doesn't look bad. Again, no water, no shimmering, no metal flakes, nothing. It just looks like regular oil. It does smell a little funky, but it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the oil. So I'm gonna drain the coolant now. Let's see what happens with the coolant. All right. Lower panel there is out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect here and here, or maybe here, it doesn't really matter. I just want to probably here and here. I wanna just drain out the coolant. I wanna see what I find, if I see any mixture of coolant and oil in the coolant. And if it all looks good, I will probably go ahead and remove the water pump again just to take a look. I also need to remove the thermostat. I want to make sure that all of that stuff is in good shape. I don't know why. I have a feeling maybe that thermostat might be bad. So maybe I'll leave the water pump, but I'll definitely swap out the thermostat. So let's see what happens. Let's see what comes out of those two pipes. All right, so there's the coolant. It's a little, I don't know, it's very pink, which it's supposed to be, but I don't see any oil in it. Otherwise, there would be, you know, like bubbles or something on top. Not bubbles, but, you know, oil floats on water. So I don't see any oil in there at all. Actually looks pretty clean. That's some of it. There's more. I need to take more out. That's probably about a gallon and a half. So let me see how much more comes out of there. All right, well, that's all of it. That's all that I could add. There's probably more in there. That's all I'm gonna get out. But I can see that it's clean. There is no oil in that coolant. So let's move on. I'm going to remove the thermostat from right here. Let's see if that, let's see what the condition of that is. So the water pump is brand spanking new, but it did have the metal fins instead of the plastic ones. I prefer the plastic ones, but that's the one that was available to me at the time. So I may remove it just to kind of satisfy my own curiosity, make sure it's good. But I think this thermostat definitely also needs to be removed and at least inspected. If not, might as well just replace it. I mean, sorry, if it's out, that's the hard part. Popping in a new one is easy. So here's the thermostat. It looks pretty good. I mean, there's no, how can I say, like corrosion or any kind of funk on it. I'm gonna pull it out or maybe leave it and dunk this thing in boiling water and see if it opens. That's how you test these things. So maybe I'll do that, but I don't know, it looks okay to me. I don't see anything wrong with it. So the inside of the block also looks nice and clean. I don't see any milkshake or I don't see any mixture of coolant and oil. So I'm gonna take that as a good sign. So I tried a little experiment with the torch. I used the torch here. Obviously being very careful not to torch the crap out of the thermostat, but you can see it does open. So the thermostat is good. All right, I'll put it back on. So I put 8 quarts of oil. So far I put 1 gallon of water. I'm just gonna put water for now and run it. And now I have this AOS here that I bought for, I don't remember what car. So I'm gonna change it out and then crank it and see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. The next step I was gonna do was change the AOS, which is that guy right there. But that one is actually for 996 and not for a 986. So I need to order the right one. I don't want to start the car until I have a new one on there, because if that actually is the problem as to why I was blowing some smoke, I'm going to start the car and it's still going to blow smoke. So I'm going to be in the same boat and I'm still not going to know what's wrong with the car. So I want to go ahead and get that taken care of and get it replaced before I go any further with the car. I've seen a couple on auction, some with, well, I saw one with super low miles, but I didn't want to buy it yet until I figure out what I'm going to do, what's up with this one. So that's where I'm going to leave it. There will be a continuation, I guess you could say, a sequel to this video for when I get the AOS installed and get the car cranked up and see what happens. Fortunately, all the fluids I took out of it looked good. The oil smelled a little funky, but it looked fine. The coolant looked fine. So we'll see. So stay tuned for the next one. I hope you liked the video. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me any comments, notification bell. Thanks for watching. Wish me luck on this thing. I'm gonna need it.